I wanted to ask, so one gray area is what is blockchain, what is cryptocurrency. So probably you told the biggest advantage is it's tamper proof,
Yeah,
right? Now there's another gray area, that is a legality. Most of the governments don't even know what it is and whether it is legal illegal. And the government of India just went ahead and banned it. Then somebody went to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court says it's unconstitutional. So coming to the Indian context, who was using cryptocurrency, and most people don't even know what was the India scene. And now that it has got some protection from the Supreme Court, what can India do? What kind of usage can we see in our country?
sure, sure. See, one thing we spoke about was about blockchain, right? Let's also come into the cryptocurrency part, like how it's
Right,
actually useful, right? So what is happening is internet. What it started as a disintermediation thing. You remove lot of middlemen and you
right.
do an aggregator stuff. Redbus removed all the bus agents. MakeMyTrip removed all the travel agents, something like that, right? But
Yeah.
what has in turn happened is these guys they have become the biggest middlemen in between, and they take a cut of everything. Just imagine Uber. What it does, it just connects a driver with a rider. It's a simple algorithm, right? If you put this algorithm in open source, right, every time, every ride will say 20 to 30 percentage, right? It can be completely decentralized. So in a blockchain system like Bitcoin, what it kind of provides you is you don't need a central entity at all. There's no single entity that controls Bitcoin. It is just like internet. It is just like Wikipedia. Anyone who wants to participate can participate. Okay. Bitcoin was started as a financial system, right? It's kind of like money because that is like the biggest enabler when it comes to this thing, right? We have open source version of everything, but money is something we had an open source, which is called gold. No one had a particular control over gold. You mine gold, that is yours. You want to take gold to Australia, you can spend it. You take gold to US, you can spend it. It was not controlled by any country or anything like that, right? So they thought that money needs to be innovated because everything else has changed, and we are using the same old concept of money for the new age internet system. That needs to change. That was point number one. Once Bitcoin came into picture, people saw, okay, if money can be made open source, why can't we make everything open source? That is how Ethereum came. Ethereum is more like a Play Store, right? You want to create an app and run on a Play Store, you can do it. So these apps are called decentralized apps, dApps. So I can create an open source version of Uber and upload it in Ethereum. So anyone who wants to become a rider, he signs up in that. Anyone who wants to become a driver, he signs up in that, and that code keeps on running. There's no intervention at all. No one can control the system. So anything that you see in internet, where you are seeing this whole data privacy and all those things as a huge problem, like Facebook. Why should Facebook have a control over our data? You and me are friends. I'm going to upload something and I give permission to you. You can watch it. So all these things are being made possible. And to make these things possible, you need a value of token, right? Like to incentivize people to host the system and all those things. So that is where this cryptocurrencies come into picture. Blockchain, the biggest power of blockchain, Bitcoin came into picture was decentralization. You don't need banks. You don't need governments. You can make things possible without any particular entity controlling. So that it's just like an Android, right? So the biggest example we keep talking about is 10 years back when I bought a system, the operating system alone I had to pay for like 6,000 rupees. Today I'm buying a phone for 3,000 rupees because the operating system is free. No one person is controlling it. It's an open source operating system, Android. Right? So if we can make open source a lot of things that we see in real life, lot of value can be unlocked. So this is the kind of power the cryptocurrency has brought in, and lot of early proponents of internet, they are seeing that the internet, the way it's built currently, it is giving too much data, too much control to few people. The last 3 years, all the controversies that has been surrounding Google, Facebook, all this, the laws that are being passed in Europe is basically because how to control this data, how to give this data back to the users, the GDPR and all those things, right? Blockchain, cryptocurrencies, they provide a way to do that. Okay, so the people who understand internet, they see this can be the next wave of internet. All the versions of things that we have in the closed source model that we have right now, all the internet companies, they will have a open source counterpart, a decentralized counterpart, a dApp counterpart in future. Okay, this is the vision that we believe in, and each of them they come up with their own token and saying that okay, this particular token we are trying to have this kind of use case, and these are all like, and so this is how this whole industry is evolving. So this is one part. Second part is when you come up with laws and regulations, at any point of time you can always close your eyes and say first the technology comes, then the regulation can come. right? The opposite cannot happen because regulation doesn't know what is in the future, right? You see the technology, you see the what kind of use cases are coming up, and then you build regulations. If you think about internet in 1990, it would not be possible to think about like WhatsApp like feature will be available. A gig economy is going to come in 15 years. You cannot imagine internet that way, right? Internet was used for all bad use cases. Like the first thing a student does is all bad use case, right? But you cannot think about that and regulate internet. You should see what kind of potential the internet has and what kind of use cases, and we should always accept that it's impossible to predict what technology is going to be used for, because like no one could have predicted that Uber is going to be like a huge thing, like you're going to book a cab and it's going to come. It would have been like watching a 2050 futuristic movie, right? But it's just happening. We have accepted it as a day-to-day life, and it's so useful during these days, right? When you don't have to visit. So that is the whole problem with respect to technology and regulations. So it is quite normal that a lot of countries have not yet regulated because it is in the cutting edge and people are still looking at it and understand. But it is also the case that countries like Japan has made Bitcoin completely legal. It is equivalent to their local currency, yen, right? There is no differentiation. You can go to a normal money changer and you can ask for Bitcoin, he's going to provide you. Most of the European nations who respect personal rights, it's just a software piece of code, right? I can own a particular piece of coin or wealth if I want to, as long as I am doing everything right for legit purposes. So European nations have no problem with ownership of Bitcoin or transaction of Bitcoin. Right? Even in US, they are not against Bitcoin. If you look at all the countries that are companies that are getting formed, so the simple way to look at this is the VCs that invested in the early internet stages, the Andreessen Horowitz, General Atlantic, these are the same guys who are also investing in the cryptocurrency industries. Right? They see the potential that this is going to be the next big wave. So a lot of countries, the developed countries, they see that. Okay, say what would have happened if India had put some kind of a restriction on computers or some kind of restrictions on internet in 2000 or 1990, right? Where would we be? Like services contribute to the big chunk of our exports, right? Big chunk of our jobs, right? Today, Swiggy, Uber, Zomato, Ola, they provide big chunk of the jobs that we exist, right? So it is very, very, very important. A government like India, we look at this use case, we take time and study it before coming up to the conclusions. One more small correction I want to make. You mentioned that Indian government had banned Bitcoins, right? So actually, this is the idea like a lot of people who have in India have, but actually Indian government has never banned Bitcoins. Okay, even in Rajya Sabha in the month of February, in the month of January, they have given clarifications that there is no ban on Bitcoin. Even in Supreme Court, the RBI Council said that okay, there is no ban on Bitcoin, but in April 2018, RBI came up with something called a ring fencing. What they said, okay, you can hold Bitcoin, you can trade Bitcoin, and all those things, but to the banks, they said, please do not support crypto entities, right? That instruction was given to the banks, to the customers, to Indian citizens. There was no instruction that was given, and Indian people, they continued to trade in Bitcoin in terms of cash, in terms of peer-to-peer trading, and all those things are still happening. Okay, so Supreme Court, the key thing they saw was this is something. You are saying it's a legal industry. There's no ban on this industry, but you are saying you should not provide banking services. Banking services in today's world is lifeline of any industry. Okay, you come up with clear regulations, or let them continue with whatever you have. So this is the kind of relief that Supreme Court gave to entities like us. So Indian government, they formed two committees. In 2016, they formed a committee. One committee, they said, okay, go ahead and regulate Bitcoins. Go ahead and allow Bitcoins, okay, with certain restrictions. Okay. The second committee said ban Bitcoins. Both the committees report, government has not accepted. Okay. So government is still in a dilemma because this is something that deals with money. This is also about giving away some kind of a control. So government is still thinking, they have still not taken any decision. So that is the reason. Since 2013, RBI has been giving warnings. Okay, end of the day, this is like a cutting edge technology, right? Okay, there's like so much growth happening. If you look at something that was like 1 rupee in 2011, it went to like say 1 million rupees in the end of 2018. In the last 3 years alone, Bitcoin price has grown by around 3,000%. And this is true for any cutting edge technology, right? If you look at internet, there was a dot-com bubble. right? Because you see there is so much potential. A few set of people see so much potential, they go ahead and invest. You look at any real estate or railroads in US, any promising technology, we will see that a lot of people rush in, something like a gold rush, right? Too many people come in and invest because they want to be take a part of this pie. If you send me back in time machine into the 1990s, I'll go ahead and invest in internet stocks because I know this is going to be like huge. 1998, I'll go ahead and buy Google. Okay, some of these coins might fail, but overall, this is what a typical sentiment in India is. So if you ask, like, you ask a question, why do people invest in cryptocurrencies? How do they enter this business? This is the main reason. They see there's a huge potential. Last 10 years, except for 1 or 2 years, Bitcoin has been the best performing asset globally. And this is an asset that is not linked to the traditional conventional market. When you want to diversify your portfolio, it is ideal to have like 1 to 5% of Bitcoin because it's completely non-correlated asset, right? And because still, as you said, very few people understand this technology, and as days goes by, more and more people are going to come here. And with respect to Bitcoin, it is just 21 million coins that are like total supply. Okay, so it is basically land grab that is happening, right? So this is one of the key reasons why a lot of people invest in Bitcoin. And there are also like other part traders, because there's a lot of fluctuation. There's a lot of opportunities to make money by selling at the top and buying at the bottom. So this is the second reason why customers trade Bitcoin.
Okay, thanks for clearing that confusion, because not only the technology, even the regulation and laws, there is a lot of confusion around it.
Yeah.
So basically, that means in a way you can say the government has not made a decision yet. It is still playing a watching game.
Yes.
Is that the correct thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So that means still you cannot pay your taxes in Bitcoin, or you cannot deposit Bitcoin in your local bank. That is the only restriction.
Yes.
But you can exchange among yourselves, and like, for example, would it be possible in the future to buy goods on Amazon and Flipkart using Bitcoin? What is the regulation related to that?
See, as of now, there's no stopping Amazon from accepting cryptocurrencies. There have been restaurants who have been accepting Bitcoins and they got
Okay.
really, really famous.
Okay.
Right? So, like, but like normally, even I wouldn't go and pay. Like, we are regular users of cryptocurrencies. We have been in this
Right.
business for like 3 years. We will not go and pay this thing in Bitcoin because I have to
Okay.
check the conversion. So there was a joke, right?
Okay.
To say that this laptop is worth 1 Bitcoin. Okay, suddenly it's 7.5 lakhs. By the time you pay 7.15 lakhs,
Okay.
then it becomes 8 lakhs, right?
Uh,
So people don't want to value something in a highly volatile this thing, right? But there are also stable currencies on Ethereum blockchain. People have built a USDT stablecoin where $1 is always $1. You have Euro stablecoin, right? So these kind of coins are also there. So some companies like Microsoft, Expedia, these people, they accept cryptocurrencies, but they immediately convert into dollar. They say this is
okay.
the market rate. I'm going to charge you 0.08 bitcoins, and they don't hold bitcoins. As soon as you pay 0.08 bitcoins, the 0.08 is sold and converted back into dollars, right? So in India, there's no stopping anyone from accepting cryptocurrencies. But right now, since there is like some kind of confusion, people are trying to stay away from this.
Okay.
See,
So
as a
what
matter
is? Sorry. Yeah.
you can buy and sell Bitcoin from your bank account now. That is the clarification Supreme Court gave. Right, so you can buy Bitcoin from your own bank account. You can deposit into Geotas's account. You can buy it. Right, so that is what the Supreme Court had said, that no, you cannot stop customers from doing that. Right, and the particular solution you were asking, right? A lot of exchanges were giving that solution to retail customers. Right, when this RBI circular came in between, nothing could be done on that aspect. But going forward, you'll find a lot of those retail solutions that will be coming out. No, at least for generating some news and coolness factor.
Yeah.
But real usability, like Arjun said, might not happen.
So, but has anyone tried to deposit Bitcoin in your local state bank or something? Has anyone at least tried? No, it's
No,
not possible.
maybe for a joke we can share something, right?
Okay.
So there is a feature in all exchanges which will say
Okay.
transfer Bitcoin from your address here to another address. Could be an international exchange's address, or when we say address, it is some 64-digit number
Right.
that they allow to put. So we find a lot of cases where people will write their home address.
Okay.
They actually think that, okay, we'll be coming to their house with a bag of coins in our hand and giving it to them. Right? Yeah, still a lot of knowledge building and everything has to happen in this space. I mean, slowly, yeah, it will happen. We'll be there.
Common question that we get is where is the Bitcoin? How do we see Bitcoin? Right. The first thing that we kind of clarify to people is it all exists completely virtual. Everything is there online. Even right now, if we talk about Indian rupee, only like 10 to 20% of the money is actually in the printed form. 80% is just a number in a database. Right. When you issue a loan, it is just moving from one bank to another and it keeps rotating. It's all in the digital form. Right. We just because we have like 10% of the money in physical form, we assume money should always be in physical form, right? It need not be. So there's a whole. So it takes time for people to accept. Okay, it's just like if you go 100 years back and explain electricity, they'll think it's magic. Like how can this happen? How can this run by itself? Right? That's the same thing with respect to bitcoins. We see a lot of customers have this.
The usual example I'll straight out is, now imagine some product like a mutual fund or an SIP, for example, right? A product like that, which has been in the market for so many years itself, so much amount of advertising is needed. A lot of cautionary even statements are given by the SEBI and other governing bodies. And the product that is being supported by the government itself needs so much of advertising and so much of advisory that needs to be given. This particular technology will take its time, because the education is being done by exchanges. All the investment for education is being done by us. Cautionary is also given by us. More than what RBI and all these governing body give cautionary advices, we give more cautionary advices to our customers, stating that okay, someone is saying there's an investment scheme in cryptocurrency, go invest, don't believe them. We give a lot of cautionary advice on the contrary.